There was two big heavyweight fights on the bill as well, neither of which went the way the bookies thought they would. We'll start with Andy Ruiz against Jarrell Big Baby Miller. How did you feel about that? Because obviously it was called a draw
I
in the
thought
end.
Miller
What did
won
you
it.
you thought Miller
I
won?
thought Miller won it. Yeah, I thought he won it.
Just based on activity, or
No, just based on that he won the fight. I mean, he won the fight. I mean, before the fight, you haven't got rocket science. The other guy's been out for 2 years. Miller's had he obviously he's coming off of the loss against Daniel, but I fancied him. I felt that he's the problem you've got with Ruiz, he doesn't live the life, and that's the problem. He just doesn't live the life. And if you're having 2 years out, that's going to be telling for you. And the fact of the matter was, he's got fast. He's got quite fast. Oh, actually, both of them have got fast hands, but he's a bit better on his feet. He's better on his feet, Miller than Ruiz. So anyway, I felt he won the fight.
and you said about Ruiz not living the life. Jarrell Miller hasn't always lived the life in a completely different way, of course. Your good friend now, Eddie Hearn, took quite a bit of criticism in the build-up to this show for saying he'd never work with Miller again some years ago, and doing a bit of an about turn by his inclusion on this show and doing some pre-fight stuff with him. What do you make of that criticism? Fair or unfair?
I think at the time I get where he's coming from. I mean, when you're promoting and you're putting your money up and you're making fights and someone does what they do, cheats or whatever they do, it's not right. I mean, obviously it's not right, and it's quite, you're selling tickets to the public, and there are times where things like this happen, and it's it's not a good thing. But that was then. Miller's hopefully turned his life around or tried to change his lifestyle. I hope he's done it anyway, and let's hope he continues to do that. If he does anything untoward in the future, then they should just throw away his license and not let him fight again, so he knows what to expect.
So is your view, as long as he tests clean now, you're happy to work with him?
My view is this. My view is we have governing bodies who take sanction fees off of us as promoters. They are supposed to be overseeing the sport. It's not the promoter's job, although we don't want people cheating, but it's not the promoter's job to police the sport. It's the job of the managers and trainers to ensure their fighters are not cheating, because they are in control of their careers. They are the guys that are training them, and I find it very difficult to believe that a trainer would not know if his fighter was juicing. I'd find that very difficult. So that's their responsibility. It's not, and I'm not ducking out of it. I'm saying that we go with what it should be. But at the end of the day, it's up to the governing bodies. You want a clean sport, then you've got to put out. Then you've got to make the consequences severe, like in Britain at the moment. All this shit that's going on in the streets and that. You want to stop it, whether it's far right, far left, whether it's whatever race it is, whether it's the lunatics on either side. There should be consequences for them. You can't be, setting fire to police station, cars, storming into pubs, doing all these things without any consequences. But if there's no consequences, it happens on a daily basis. And if there's no consequences for juicing, then they'll continue to juice.
Just as a aside to that, before we go back to the boxing, are you kind of relieved to be out of it at the moment while all this stuff's going on back home?
What do you mean? What in England?
Yeah.
I find it soul destroying. I find it sad, really sad what's going on. People capitalise on it. I think the social media and all the, we're used to shite going out on social media, right. From boxing with all the bits and pieces that the untruths and whatever. But as far as what's going on back in the UK, it's just it's awful, and there's no consequences to this, and people stirring the pot and make it worse, making the situation worse. And I don't think, and I don't get this thing where, the police are the politicians are the politicians. They're an elected government at the moment, although there's only less just under 80% of the people who voted for them, but they're in power. They're the government. So the government that set down what the law should be and so forth, and they set down the policies. The police are there, and police should be respected. They should do their job, and that's what they need to do. And for me, there should not have to be And I know they have to liaise with communities and whatever, but you shouldn't have to be going to elders, to other people to get people to behave themselves. They should behave themselves because there's a law and you should respect the law, and that's it. And if you don't respect the law, then you pay the consequences. And a few people have found that out from the
Yeah.
far right. So they're finding out where they are. But that should be an equal playing field for anybody who does that, whatever it's about. That's how it should be. And that's what we vote for. We vote for law and order. We vote for a health service. We vote for education. That's what we vote for, and that's what the government's job is there to do, is to deliver that to the people who elected them, and even the people who didn't elect them. That's what they're there to do, to make sure it happens, and not just pick your battles and pick your opponents. It should be a level playing field for everybody.
Now, have to ask you about this. You've got a very close relationship with HE, Turki Alalshikh. He's seemed to enter into something of a social media feud in his own right with Canelo, of all people. What have you made of their back and forth?
Yeah, I mean, it's he wanted to make the fight with Terence Crawford, and I don't know. I mean, there's been some backwards and forwards over that between them. It'll settle down and see what happens. But at the moment, that looks like all bets are off. But you know what? In this business, as we all know, it can change. It can change in a heartbeat. We'll see.
But he's been quite private since he's been involved in boxing. He seems to be becoming more and more public facing, if you like, and actually accusing Canelo of taking easy fights, which, in fairness, a lot of fans would agree in recent times. But it just seems a bit of a leap for we call him a promoter, organizer, whatever you want to call him, to go into it a one-on-one thing with a fighter.
Well, he's chairman of the Riyadh season, and he controls the budgets for these big Riyadh season shows. So that's where he's at. And as you know, he's a boxing nut, and that's a fight as a fan he wanted to see. I know that he wanted to see, and he was desperate to make it.
Would you do it though? Would you kind of get into it with a fighter directly on social media?
Oh, I think I have over a couple of times. Haven't I? A couple of, not many of them, but a couple of them I have. They'll get that. But that's the age we live in, isn't it? That's the age we live in. And all you've got to look at is what since he's been involved in the sport, and Riyadh season's been involved in the sport. How good it's been.
Do you see Canelo and him being able to work it out at any point? Will we ever see Canelo on a Riyadh season show, do you think?
I never say never. Never say never. Never say never.
One of the other things that came up speaking to Billy Nelson yesterday, he praised Spencer Brown, who's of course Tyson Fury's manager as well, for a lot of the work he does behind the scenes on these Riyadh season shows. Just wanted to ask what your experience is with Spencer and how integral he's been to these big events. Both
Spencer's become Tyson's manager a couple of years ago, and he's done a really, really good job. No doubt about that. And on the Riyadh season shows, he works alongside we all work as a team to get these events over the line. And Spencer's certainly a big part of that. And it's been good fun. And there's some real good fights and shows being put together, of which he's been a big contributor towards.
And September 21st, we see Riyadh season hit the UK for the first time. We know all about the main event, Joshua Dubois. Everyone's very excited about that, I think. What are people maybe missing that they should be excited about on the undercard? What's kind of the sleeper hits there?
Blimey, I mean, we just talked about one of them, haven't we?
Yeah, Buatsi Hutchinson.
Cracker of a fight. I mean, it's just a great undercard all the way through. There's some really, really good quality fights on there. I mean, some fabulous fights on there. It's a fighting card. It's the Riyadh season special edition, and it lives up to the brand Riyadh season. No doubt about that.
So let me ask you, because there's not many where you haven't got an interest, where one of your fighters isn't on there, but Liam Smith, Josh Kelly, That's one where you're not promoting either guy directly. Who do you fancy in that?
I'm not sure. It depends what what Liam's got left in the tank. That's going to determine how the fight goes. Josh is obviously a younger guy and he's a good fighter, but Liam on his day is a good fighter. And I don't know what happened in the rematch with Eubank. I mean, the first fight with Eubank, he done a job on Eubank, didn't he? So if he reproduces that form, it's going to be a good fight, no doubt about that. He's up for it. He fancies it.